tonight. Larry K comes to us. He's here almost every day, probably, except for when you had surgery last fall, and we tried to get him here to tell his story before his surgery. And understandably, he wanted to wait. And things went well, and we're all fortunate to have him here tonight. Larry Klinger.
All right. I better sit a little. I am Larry Klinger, and I am an alcoholic. And I wasn't even nervous about this. I got all friends out here. There's so many people out there I know, and some I will get to know. And this is every time I pointed my car in this direction, I started feeling better, and it hasn't changed. The magic is still in the rooms. I found it almost 31 years ago, and it still works. It's been working from the day I walked in. I was one of the fortunate ones. I knew I belonged here. I didn't have to go out and try it again, which some of us do get here too early, but we never get here too late. And thank God for that. We welcome people, we tell them to keep coming back, and it seems to sink in. Some people, in the big book, Bill Wilson says that of the people that really want to stop drinking that come to AA, 50% will get it right away. 25% will go in and out for the next 5 or 10 years and come back and stay. And 25% will not make it. And it's not the odds are not that bad. Sometimes you hear like 1 out of 1,000 make it. Like you could scare an alcoholic into getting sober. It's the biggest joke in the world. Most alcoholics are not going to die. They're going to live forever. Anyway, I was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1929. August 20th, 1929. And everybody in my family drank. Everybody. I had 2 sisters and a brother and a mother and a father. And we all drank. I mean, that was it. I mean, what's wrong with drinking? You laugh. Anyway, I was 2.5 years old, and my parents were having a party for, I think it was my brother-in-law, my future brother-in-law from Chattanooga that was dating my sister. I think he got engaged or something, I think. But I was 2.5. Anyway, I started picking up drinks that people were leaving at the tables, and I got drunk. And I remember, for some reason, I fell on the floor, and Bernard, my brother-in-law, stepped on me. And his daughter is sitting in there now. Everybody knows about Trudy. It's Trudy's father. He stepped on me. And he was laughing like hell. He was drunk too. So that was my first drink. Actually, when I was circumcised, they gave me Manischewitz wine, MD, and until I stopped crying, I kept putting it on my lips. Boy, was I hurt, but anyway, I got over that. Anyway, I'll rev it up to 16 years old. I'm working at the bellhop in the corner of 42nd and 7th Avenue in New York. It's called the National Hotel. And every time I went to a room, they would offer me a drink, and I said, I don't drink, and all that stuff. And then one guy offered me a drink of old Southern Comfort, not old Southern Comfort. And he said, taste this, you'll like it. So I tasted a little bit. I said, geez, that's pretty good stuff. So he says, all right, when you get off, come on up here and I'll give you a drink. So I went up to his room and I got off at 12 o'clock midnight and had a wonderful glass about that big and finished the whole long thing, thinking it was, not much alcohol in it. I didn't read the bottle. I just liked the taste of it. Anyway, I got on the train, headed for Brooklyn. It was usually a 45-minute trip. I fell asleep till the last stop. A conductor or somebody woke me up and said, son, we don't go any further. This is the last stop in Brooklyn. So I got back on another train and ended up at the last stop that way. And then I went back the other way and ended up at the last stop. So I got out, got breakfast, and I finally made it home. That was a nice drink. And then the next one was, I was engaged. I was engaged to be married in November of 1949. And we broke up about 2 weeks before the wedding. So I headed south to, get over it, more or less. And when I got to Chattanooga, my sister was running a boarding house, a rooming house for her father-in-law. And there was a lady there, I forget her name now, I had it, but I forgot it. And she said, do you drink? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, your sister said I could take you out and introduce you to corn liquor. I said, what's that? I said, well, it's just a drink. It's all just a drink. So we went down to the river somewhere, and some guy came out. And anyway, here comes a pint. And she said to me, her name was Tater, T-A-T-E-R, Tater. And she said, gargle this stuff first before you drink it, because it won't have no effect on you if you don't. So naturally I wanted, so I gargled it, and there went my tonsils. And so I got drunk on it, but it was nice. It was a nice introduction to the South. And she showed me where all the honky-tonks were. There was one in Chattanooga called the Wagon Wheel. There was one called Suck Creek Inn. And I forget the third name. It'll come to me. Anyway, that was my rounds, these honky-tonks. They were great, and I met a young lady named, I'll call her Jean P. And she was something else. She knew how to drink, and I knew how to drink. So we got along pretty good. So one day, and we started living together. And she said to me one day, do you like the horseback ride? I said, I've never been on a horse. And she said, well, let's go out to Fort Oglethorpe, which is close to Chattanooga. And we'll rent, you can rent horses there. We'll go for a ride. I said, okay. So the only shoes I had was my Army shoes, my Army boots. She said, you should wear boots. So I had the Army boots. And I wore a 13 at that time. Now I'm down to a 12. I'm shrinking. And I had to force my foot into the stirrup. both stirrups, I forced my foot in. That means that I had to have somebody push it to get it off. I didn't think nothing of it. And then she whacked this horse on the ass, and that horse took off. First I went down the hill where there was thorns and everything, whacking my head, and branches whacking me, and then the horse went over some railroad tracks, and then up another hill it threw 2 posts, and one of the posts got my kneecap and took some skin off the top of it. And then he went 4-legged, split eagle across the highway. We crossed the highway, and my feet were bouncing off the highway. And then he took me through some backyards of homes, and the homes, a lot of them had these clotheslines which were wire. I just knew I was going to die. And I couldn't get my feet out of the damn horse, so I was stuck riding it. Finally, I just grabbed the reins and pulled it back, and he ran into a tree and knocked the hell out of him. He didn't lose his balance, though, but it stopped him. And then I was able to work my way out of there, thank God. And anyway, the next day, when I got up, I didn't get up. I was so sore, there was meat gone from my tailbone. Meat was gone from it, from riding the saddle. And anyway, they put me in a bathtub and turned the hot water on, and I stayed in that tub all day. And so that was my first horseback ride with Jean P. She set me up with that horse. She said, "This horse is very quiet. You'll enjoy this ride." Anyway, we'll switch over to when I moved here to Atlanta. I moved into a boarding house on Piedmont Road, right across from the thing with the flowers, what do you call it? Botanical Gardens, right across the street from the entrance. And that was exciting. That boarding house, everybody drank in that boarding house. And so did I, of course. Anyway, I had a roommate, a guy named Jim W. I give him these initial last names, but actually none of these, as far as I know, made it into the program. So Jim W. fell in love with the landlady. She wasn't in love with him, but he could paint, and he was a good carpenter, and he helped her with the boarding house to keep it, in shape. So she gave us a room in the back, up some stairs, and here comes Jim one night crying like a baby, and I'm drunk as hell. And he says, "She don't love me anymore." I said, "Why do you say that, Jim?" She wouldn't let me into her room. I don't think he was having sex. He just, drank so damn much. She told him he was having it, I guess. And he was satisfied. So he said, "What am I going to do? What am I going to do?" I said, "What do you want to do?" He says, "I want to kill myself." I said, "Jim, I want to sleep. If you kill yourself, do it quietly." So about 30 minutes later, I wake up to the noise of a thump, and another thump, and I look up and Jim's got a sheet around his neck, and he puts it on top of the door and he jumps off the chair. The trouble was the sheet wouldn't hang on and it just slipped off every time. So I said, "Jim, you'll never kill yourself that way." I said, "Go in the bathroom, there's a gas heater, and I turn the gas heater on." I wanted to sleep, that's all I knew. I wanted to sleep. My head was aching, I wanted to sleep. So he went in there, I guess, and about an hour later I wake up with the smell of gas. bathroom is right. We're on a back porch, and so anyway, I had to break the door in because he was stuck between the bathtub and the door. Anyway, I got his feet and dragged him out on the front porch. He was passed out. I don't know if he was dead or not at the time, and I didn't care. I wanted to go to sleep. So I went back to sleep. When I woke up in the morning, he was okay. A drunk, sometimes you can't kill a drunk. He was okay, he was ready to go. Made up with the landlady, she was going to allow him to fix the door or something. And Jim later on went to work for me, and one day I had to let him go because he drove and drank on payday. Every Friday he got drunk. He drove this big truck of mine, and I went out to get him one day. The customers were calling, and he was waiting on a green light. And as soon as it turned red, he took off. He didn't even see me. I mean, that's how drunk he was. And anyway, I got the truck back and fired him, and later on he had a stroke, and instead of going to the hospital, he went through and got a six-pack and went home and fell dead between the bathroom and the kitchen. He was a great guy. I love him. He was 52 years old. Anyway, switch over to the Tech Georgia game. I made friends with a guy that was a pimp. Drunks hang out with anybody, It says in the big book something about we'll be with people we never would before. It sounds to me like they're talking about when we were drinking, but they're talking about when we're in the program. I can't get that straight in my mind. Anyway, he said, let's go to the Tech Georgia game. I got tickets. And so we were drinking on the way over there, and I sat down with him in the, I don't know where the hell he was sitting. He was sitting at the game anyway. And I saw this good-looking woman coming down the aisle. She had a skirt up to her navel, I think. And she was beautiful. And she came walking towards me and smiled at me. That smile got me in trouble. And then she sat down, and so I had my shoes off, and I had my feet hanging in the chair in front of me. Incidentally, that woman, she had a boyfriend with her, a husband or whatever. I don't know what it was, but at that point, I was so drunk I didn't care. So I had my feet in that chair in front of me at the Tech game, and here comes another beautiful blonde. Oh, man. And she sat on my feet and turned around and she said, excuse me, and smiled at me. So I had one in front of me, one beside me, and kept nipping at the bottle. And then I started playing with the blonde's hair, just playing with, I don't know what, I'm playing with her hair. And she evidently liked it because she didn't turn around and yell at me. And the woman over here on my right, the one with the skirt up to her navel, her boyfriend saw me doing that, and he hollered out at me, stop doing that. I said, who the hell are you, Dick Tracy? I said, it's none of your business. Anyway, here he comes, and so when he got to me, I figured I better hit him first because he's going to kill me if I don't. So I whacked him in the chin, and he went over about 3 or 4 aisles, and I fell backwards onto some lady, and I couldn't get off. I was stuck between the seat and her legs, and her husband started beating on my head. Get off my wife, get off my wife. I couldn't. I was struggling. Anyway, the next thing I know, that other guy is coming up, and he's just about in front of me, and I got him in the chest with my foot, and he went back down the aisles. Anyway, I ended up in a paddy wagon. I ended up in jail. And I had no experience in jail. I knew that it would get me out, but I didn't know you had to have 3 hours to get sober in the can in Fulton County, in the city of Atlanta. So I gave away all my change to these drunks in there. They wanted to use it to make a phone call. And then I had to borrow a dime to make a phone call to call my wife, Myrna. And I called her. It was about 8 o'clock at night. And she said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in jail." She says, "We got a dinner engagement in a half an hour." I said, "Myrna, I need help." Whack, she hung up the phone on me. Anyway, the pimp finally got around there and got me out. And so that was my experience. And I made the papers. I made the editorial page. Luckily, they didn't have my name. They just some red-headed, burly drunk ruined the game for a lot of people. I think it was Hugh Parks at the time. Hugh Parks. He was a big writer for the journal. That goes back, back a few years. So anyway, I'm still, having fun. I'm drinking. I know I could quit any time I want to. No problem. I want to quit, I'll quit. But once I quit, I'm having fun. So the next thing I know, Gene P. What the hell, comes to Atlanta to visit me. And we go out to a place in, that's the lady that got me that calm horse. We went out to Jonesboro to it was a joint where a guy from Chattanooga owned it. You could bring your own bottle. They charge you, I don't know, $5 to get in. They had a band. And who the hell was the band leader then? I think it was Piano Red. I loved him. He really could beat up some music. And anyway, Gene we ran out of whiskey, and I asked the guy that owned the place, "You got anything?" He said, "All I got is vodka." And I had never drank vodka, and she hadn't either. It looked like water. We drank it like water. Next thing I know, she's up doing a striptease in the middle of the dance floor and taking off her clothes. So I ran over to get her, and she started whacking at me. And 2 guys jumped up and ran, "You leave that girl alone." I said, "Okay, she's all yours." Next thing I know, she's ripped their pants off. And that's all kinds of a fight. I just waited outside till she got through. And when she got through, I took her home. Started to take her home. When she gets in the car, she's so mad at me, she puts her feet up on the windshield and breaks it. And so I tied her up with my tie and my belt and threw her in the back seat. So she kicked out the side window, and out she went. She went out the window while I was going about 50. So I pulled over the side, ran over there. She was halfway up the hill, trying to get off the choke. Anyway, she had some, every time she stuck her head up, I went like that. And so she had a black eye when we finally got to where we were going, which was someone else's boarding house. And I went to the Plaza drugstore and bought some live leeches to put on her cheek, to get the black out of her cheek. Well, I couldn't get them to stay still. They were just wiggling all over the place. So I gave up on that and bought a steak and put it on her eye. Anyway, I hope the heck she's alive. I hope she's in the program. She had a bad alcohol problem. Anyway, it was Myrna when I was, wasn't no kid anymore. Myrna started going to Al-Anon and leaving the literature around the house, you know. There's a piece here and a piece there. You want to go to a meeting? And I said, no, I don't think so. Anyway, one day she finally said it the right way or something. I said, she called me at work. And she said, the meeting is at 8 o'clock. It was 10:30 in the morning. I remember looking at the clock. And she said, how about tonight? I said, tonight's the night. I'll go. At 2:30, I opened up my desk drawer and took out a bottle that I didn't want to take out. I opened it. I didn't want to open it. And I took a drink I didn't want to take. And then I got scared. I got real scared because in my mind I could quit anytime I wanted. Here was 4 hours later, and I got another drink, and it scared the hell out of me. Anyway, I was in front of Ansley Mall on my way home, and the traffic was stuck, and I kept looking at my watch, and I wanted to make it. So I backed up what I thought was a driveway, but the back of the car went off the edge, and the wheels were spinning, and a busload of people pulled up, and they all opened the window and started laughing at me. I didn't know where the hell I was. And I had gotten another half a pint on the way home, So I got out of the car, finished that half pint, and just threw it right back into the parking lot and found a payphone and called my warehouse, and there were some guys there. They said they'd come and get me out of it. Anyway, I made the meeting. It was the first meeting at Peachford Hospital that I went to an actual meeting, because I'd been going with Myrna's aunt and uncle. She was trying to get sober, and she couldn't do it. She was in Peachford about 5 times, and she just couldn't get sober. And anyway, that's what I knew about AA and all that stuff, so thank you. No drink, it's just plain water. What the hell is that? Oh, it's terrible.
All right.
Plain water, oh Jesus, what a way to die. So, where the hell was I? Oh yeah, so anyway, I finally got home, and when I got home, my mother took me to Peachford, and I was shaking like a leaf. I was scared to death. That was when I discovered I must be an alcoholic. First time, I was 50 years old, first time in my life. And I know a lot of us say that I knew I was alcoholic, but you don't really know what alcoholic means until you become one and know it. And it's a different story. I don't know. Anyway, when I walked into the room, there was about this many people in the meeting, and within a few moments, I felt like I was home. Everything was going to be okay. I didn't hear a damn thing. I don't know what was going on. But if all those people, there were over 100 people, the smell of coffee and cigarette smoke. And it was like a bar, except nobody was drinking. So, I was right at home. I figured if these people could stop drinking, I can. And it was true for me. I never had another drink from that first meeting. My first sponsor was a guy named Roland Weiss. That board was put up there for in his honor at 12 steps up there on the wall. He was telling his story at Peachford. I wasn't a patient there, but I started going to meetings there. He was telling his story, and he looked over the crowd and he said, I was already at the time probably sober 4 or 5 months, but I still hadn't found, every time I thought I had a sponsor, I'd follow him to the meetings, and he wouldn't say what I wanted him to say. So I kept looking. So Lola looks over the crowd and he says, I can't tell you all that I love you, each and every one. And I needed to hear that because the love word was driving me nuts. It was just too much, you know. I just knew that these people they were sober, but they were kind of crazy with this love word. Because I didn't know what the word love meant. To me, love was, you know, good-looking woman, a motel, and a good bottle of booze. You agree with me? Is that what you so, where the hell was I?
Good-looking women.
Rolling dice, yeah. So I said to somebody, do you know where Roland goes to meetings? Because there was about 500 people at that time. It drew big crowds, the patients and their families. And people like us could go there too. Everybody was invited. It was an open meeting. So they said, we don't know where he goes, you know, but that's his girlfriend over there, you know. So I went over to her and I said, where does he go to meetings? She said, he goes to NABA, and for sure he goes to the Thursday night men's group. So anyway, I followed him like a puppy dog, and he had humor. He was liked by a lot of people. He was serious as hell about the program, but he still was a happy guy. He was a happy guy. He's got some enemies to this day, you know. Some people that took him serious, but he sounded serious, but he wasn't serious. You know. He just knew the big book, and I wanted to be like him, so I got him as my sponsor. When I asked him, he said, hell no, you know, because that was his sense of humor. So I had him for about, I think, 6 years. And he passed away, some kind of blood disease he got in his legs or something. And one time, in that little room in there, I was sitting on a table, just like I'm sitting here on his desk. And he just walked in. He was going to a meeting in the big room, and he said something was over in here. And he came in and told me, I love you, Klinger. And my God, first time and last time, he told me that. 6 months, 6 years, never called him. He never called me. He always seemed to appear when I needed him. I don't know what the hell it was. I don't know what that's all about. I don't question it. But anyway, that's the way it was. We never worked on any steps. The meetings that he went to step meetings, I did too, and so I was picking up, you know, from him. I wanted to be just like him because he seemed to be having fun. And I have been having fun since I've been in AA. I really have. I've never had a bad day in AA. Bad days are out there somewhere sometimes. And I learned at the time they had a mantra about something that they kept saying, wear the program like a loose garment. Wear the program like a loose garment. And I got a hold of that. I got a hold of some other stuff that was on the wall, you know. Don't take yourself so seriously. This too shall pass, you know. Kiss, keep it simple, stupid. You know, love that too. That is great, because you can get so serious about this program that you could stop enjoying it. You know, for a while I was a little nuts with that, and somebody would say something. I had a hard time with the higher power business. I just, when I was 13 years old, my mother was killed in an accident. I had a higher power, but I didn't like what he did, you know. You know, we got this saying, he's everything or he's nothing. That's hard, you know, when you say it, it sounds easy. he's everything or he's nothing. So he's in charge of everything. So I said, he's the one that took my mother, I just had that in my head, and for the next 35 to 40 years, I knew there was one around, but I didn't like what he was doing, Anyway, I finally found it one day. I was out in a gulch, a dry gulch, with a dog that belonged to my son. A golden retriever, of course. That's the most popular dog going around right now. And anyway, I was sitting there, and I took him for a walk because my son couldn't have him in school anymore. They changed the law. He was going to college up north of Charlotte. It had dogs, and then they said, out with the dogs. Too much doo-doo around the place. So I took him for a walk in his dry gulch, and I was sitting under some air blowing all out there. I forget the name of them. And I was sitting, Yeah. I didn't hear what she said, but I said, yeah. Anyway, I was sitting under this plant or the shade, and the dog was standing like this, and looking up in the sky, and something happened. That was it. I had whatever it was. Everything was okay from that day on. I was a little over 4 years sober when that happened. So I found a higher power that I could work with. I still don't understand what the hell he's doing, but it's okay. It's all right. One of my sayings is that when the world started, everybody was lined up and God was there with a gun. When he said, when I fired his gun, take off like hell. He shot the gun and we took off. And here we are. I think that's the way it goes. I'll see you at the end of the trail. And I can handle that, thinking like that. It's okay. All right, so let's see where we are now. Oh yeah, I want to talk about making amends. I have two sons. One is in the program and one is not. And I was making amends to the one that is not in the program. Making amends. Here was my amends. We're in a cafeteria, and he looks at me and he says, Dad, how come I don't remember you taking me to Little League games? And I said, because I was a drunk. And that was my amends. You seem to be satisfied. Well, here he is. He's living outside the home now. I don't know how many years later. I think I'm sober about 9 years. And he comes by the house and knocks on the door. We answer the door. He comes in and he shoves me. And he proceeds to break up a little furniture. And he had seen a movie. What was the name of the movie? My wife can't even remember, so that's not bad. Anyway, it was a movie where this couple are fighting like crazy. This is the one where this woman tries to drown the real wife in the bathtub, or the real wife tries to drown the girlfriend in the bathtub. Fatal Attraction, right. And he had a bad experience with the girlfriend that he had at the time. And so he had just started going to, it was just starting about that time, adult children of alcoholics. And they were just all over the place with that program. Sometimes they seemed like they were hanging an effigy of the drunk in the rooms. Anyway, he just pushed around the furniture, broke some furniture, pushed me around, And so much for making a half-ass. My wife had told me when you make it an amazing, so I'd look into their eyes and say, is there anything else that I've overlooked? If so, tell me right now. Well, I didn't do that. I figured, just what I said was enough, which was a bunch of crap. Anyway, I'm sober, flashback, I'm sober 2.5 years, and I come home one day and I'm talking to my wife. I say, how am I doing? I'm sober 2.5 years. She says, you're sober, but I haven't seen any change in you whatsoever. The knife went through the heart, out my shoulder blade. So I started changing. So the first time, in I don't know how many years, I brought her some flowers home, and she says, what's wrong? So anyway, she got used to the flowers and the perfume. I started bringing her. And I brought her anyway. One day I'm in the office with a friend of mine named Ennio, and he's talking on the phone to somebody, and darling, sweet. After he got through, I said, Ennio, what was that all about? Was that your girlfriend? He says, Laurie, that was my wife. I said, you talk to her like that? I said, how long were you married? He said, 20 years. I said, my God. So I said, I want you to listen. I said, when I tell you to pick up this phone, pick it up. So I dialed Berna's number. She says, hello. I said, Ennio. I said, hello, darling. She said, who is this? So I had a lot to learn about that. Anyway, my first 12-step call, too long. Anyway, let me tell you how happy I am to be an Alcoholics Anonymous. Let's see, it says right here, enjoy today, fellowship appreciative of, I've been, with a bum hip. I finally got the hip replaced, and I've had all the rides I need to meet. There's a bunch of guys that volunteered to take me, and they're out here now, some of them. And some of you, have helped me, bought me coffee. I appreciate it. And it's the best thing that ever happened in my life when I walked into the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous. My life didn't become bland. It became exciting. I could be in the middle of a party. They're all drinking and getting a little high, and I ain't had a damn drink, and I'm right there with them. And they said, what have you been drinking? I said, same thing you are, They don't know the difference. And I'm not trying to save them. If I want to get saved, they have to call me, tell me they want to come to a meeting, and I'll take them. Anyway, I'm running out of steam here, and I appreciate you all showing up. The 7:30 a.m. group, I appreciate all you folks here, and I'll say the 3 most important words in Alcoholics Anonymous is keep coming back. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry, for keep coming back. The 7th tradition states that there are no dues or fees for AA membership. But if y'all dig deep, we'd appreciate it, because your generosity helps us keep this going, and some of it gets to the zone. And I've asked Cecilia to get out the checks.
Hi, I'm Cecilia, and I'm an alcoholic. Oh, thank you. And we have a chip system to mark your time away from a drink, a white chip for coming in or coming back. Anybody would like to try for today? A silver chip for 30 days away from a drink. 90 days, a red chip. 6 months, yellow. Green for 9 months. And blue for 1 year or many. Hi, I'm Cecilia, and I'm an alcoholic. Oh, thank you. And we have a chip system to mark your time away from a drink, a white chip for coming in or coming back. Anybody would like to try for today? A silver chip for 30 days away from a drink. 90 days, a red chip. 6 months, yellow. Green for 9 months. And blue for 1 year or many.
Hello, Mike. My name's Al, I'm an alcoholic. And 4 years ago, I made a decision to start cultivating a new life after years of drinking, and a couple of relapses, and losing a marriage, and a house, and a job, and a car, and et cetera, et cetera. Well, I just decided that I can't ever touch a drink ever again if I expect to have any kind of life. So July 4th, 06, I picked up white chip number 3, and with the help of AA, its principles, and its people, and my higher power, I've had 4 years sobriety now. And I thank the Lord.
Anyone else celebrating a birthday? And we offer the white chip one more time. If you'd like to reconsider, we leave it up here just in case. And
Okay. We got one more here, special birthday.
oh, you can
I'm going to
have
give this
Yep.
one out. Thank you, Cecilia.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Cecilia. Great job. Paul was asking for me to give him his chip for year 1 back in the program. And not too long ago, he did tell the story, and I hope that we're going to get him to tell the story again soon. And Paul has been working tirelessly helping us with this speakers meeting this last year, and I really want you to know how grateful I am for that. And congratulations.
My name's Paul. My friends call me Bird. I'm an alcoholic. And this is 1 year. And, I got 2 sponsors in my life. And I go to meetings and I don't drink. And that's how I did it. And that's how I continue to want to do it one day at a time. Thanks.
Paul, congratulations, Al. 3 years. That's great. We're 4 years. 4 years. Wow. I'm trying to catch up with you. Okay, who's got a key to the literature cabinet? Okay, well, there'll be literature available after the meeting. Any AA-related announcements? We got
My name's Brian, I'm part of Silver Alcohol. There's also other publications and various sundry items in that cabinet back there, known as the literature cabinet of Alcoholics Anonymous. Here at 1809 Briarwood Road, you're all welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, come back along. Now, who's going to share with us about the roundup in Decatur coming up this month? Share the information?
Oh, I will.
Okay, great.
Not if anyone else is supposed to do. Oh.
You're the one.
It's the Atlanta Roundup. I don't know which Atlanta Roundup, 30-something. And it's at the Decatur Holiday Inn right in downtown Decatur. And it starts Thursday, the 15th of July. It goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And actually, there's still slots for voluntary at the registration desk. They're not popular times, but if you go online, www.Atlanta Roundup, you can get more information. It's $25 if you register now and $30 at the door, and it's worth it.
And Thursday night is free, right? The first night? Thursday
Yeah,
night? I've heard that.
I don't have enough information on someone else.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you, Debbie. Really appreciate it. Yes.
Nick Anderson and his wife Barbara Anderson will be speaking on that Saturday, and Dick speaks all over the country. Excellent speaker.
On Saturday?
Uh-huh.
Great.
Marathon, they're called alcathons, going around like all night.
24-hour alcophonics for the marathon. And then Nick Anderson,
Dick and Barbara.
Dick and Barbara Anderson. Any other names?
on the first night?
Oh, I don't know, all the information's on the website.
Go online.
Yeah, go online. And so, if there are no other announcements, we would be very grateful to any volunteers to help us get the room back together. Paul, if you can help coordinate any of our volunteers, and Willie, we appreciate y'all and your great service. So, I'd like to remind everybody that anonymity is a spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever remind us Christ's principles, Lord personalities, and for those who will please join us in the Lord's Prayer. Tom S. Could you take us out, please, sir?
Joining hands to represent what we can do together, but we couldn't do it alone. With His help.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Keep that which word in your There we go. You just kind out to them.
Yes, I did.